Hi, I'm Lilia. I'm in Kiev, Ukraine. I have lived in Ukraine, in Kiev, my whole life. In this video, I thought I wanted to talk to you about spiritual wisdom that I have practically discovered, just like many of my co-citizens and fellow people here in Ukraine, that we very often talk about in the spiritual community, and we intellectually grasp those truths. But right now, many Ukrainians are in the situation when we're practically grasping certain things and our lives are changing and our ways of thinking are changing, whether we formulate it that way or not. In this video, I don't want to talk about political ideologies. I don't want to talk about propaganda on either end. What I want to talk about is how the lives of simple people are changing in accordance with the inner goodness that informs the actions of every one of us from the inside. So let me just take you through my list. 1. Unity. Counterintuitively, war teaches unity. We're getting united on a global level, and we're also getting united on a family level. My husband's family and I haven't been in touch for a very long time because of some quarrels and little inter-family arguments. But right now, we're all pulled together because of the situation that we're currently facing. We're learning the value of human connection. We're learning that human connection is a basic need. It's essential for our survival. So we're learning to come together at last. You can also see that this is happening on the global level. People are uniting. People are getting together in their own local communities and also in a greater scheme of things. We're all getting together. We're recognizing that no man is an island, that everything is interconnected, that it's impossible to do something and not affect the rest of the world. And now I don't only mean the humankind, I also mean the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom and the bacteria kingdom. I think our first lesson in this vein was coronavirus, and now this war is the second lesson that we're learning to really strengthen our understanding of this truth of unity, that everything inter-influences everything else. If only Putin knew that he attacks his own being, I'm pretty sure he would double think this situation. You see, we can only attack or do something harmful to another if we're acting from a belief that we're separate. Because if we have a belief that we're separate, that you and I are separate, that we can do any shit to another because we believe that that won't affect us directly. So we can cause suffering to anybody, being completely sure that that will take no toll on us, that will not impact us. Because we believe that we have separate consciousnesses. We think that every consciousness resides in a separate body. We have 7 billion of our 7 billion bodies and 7 billion consciousnesses. And if we think that we're separate, we cannot take each other as a part of ourselves. And we can kill each other, we can torture each other, without actually feeling that this is us torturing ourselves. We're awakening to this truth of unity the hard way right now. And I think the situation that is happening in Ukraine is a hallmark of the belief in separation. So I believe, this is my personal way of interpreting things, that the universe is pushing us towards the recognition of our shared being. We're not separate bodies. We're not separate consciousnesses. We're one consciousness that is playing this universal game. 2. Presence in the now. Suddenly we have become acutely aware that the future is indeterminate. It's really difficult to plan ahead. Everybody had their own plans before this war. My husband and I were looking for a new house to live in. We had been saving up for this house for our entire life. And now this war caught us in the middle of that process. And for so many of us, this has been the case. I would dare say for all of us, this has been the case. So now we are recognizing that we have no idea what happens tomorrow. We're being pressed into the understanding that all we have is the now. So now suddenly we have become increasingly present in every activity that we are doing. When we're washing the dishes, we're washing the dishes. When we are having a conversation with our parents, we're having a conversation with our parents. Suddenly we're learning that the only moment when anything can exist is the now. All our thoughts are happening in the now. Our thoughts about the past are happening in the now. Everything is in the now. And we're learning that the hard way. 3. Flow. Suddenly we're feeling very available. Whatever calls for our attention receives our attention. We're becoming very accepting of the current situation, and we're adjusting everything that we do to do our best to survive in this situation. There is no time to reflect on what is happening, so there is no room for the I thought to arise. In the past, we used to ruminate on things very often, but now there is very little time to ruminate. We're learning the hard way that effective action is not something that we think about and then do, but rather we're learning that the most effective action is a mode of being, which our intellect has very little control over. Rather, it's something very instinctual. We suddenly feel that everything is coming into one point and we're acting from that point. So we're very whole and complete in our action. 4. Simplicity. We're learning to be happy with little. We're learning to actually enjoy very simple things, both physically and mentally. For example, when you're in a shelter, you have no opportunity to choose whether you want to read a book, play a game on your phone. If you have a painting to look at, maybe there is a painting in a shelter, then you feel actually so happy and grateful for that. You have no choice over the water that you drink. If you have access to boiled water, that will be like the most exquisite beverage in your experience. Similarly, when your body is healthy and well functioning, and you have very simple clothes to wear, that makes you feel very happy. And when you go to a local shop, you have no more choice. No longer you have any choice over the pasta that you pick, the shape and form of pasta. Would you like farfalle? Would you like to have some spaghetti? No, you just get things that are there and you're happy that you got them. And you learn that actually we need very little to survive. Suddenly we learned that sunshine is way more important than a wardrobe full of fancy designer clothes. So our way of thinking about the things that we need is changing. And I think that this may lead to a decrease in consumerism in the world in the future. I really hope so. I think it's a very good trend, simplification. And I think right now we're also learning it the hard way. We're learning that when there is no emotion of anger, or when there is no emotion of fear, and we are in this just neutral state when we woke up, when we had our coffee, that is the best thing that we could ever experience. Even having access to running water and electricity is a great thing. Just earlier, while I was recording this video, there was an electricity cut. We got really scared. We never valued electricity the way we do right now. So thankfully, the electricity came back and I'm talking to you right now. And I'm just so happy that this simple thing that we have been taking for granted, such as electricity, is once again with us. 5. Effective communication. We're learning the cost of misinformation, and we're taking responsibility to inform our family members, our relatives and friends around the world what is happening. We're learning that it makes a real difference how you choose the words to communicate information. Now we're all discovering the aftermath of propaganda that people are experiencing on both ends. And let me tell you guys, this is terrible. We're learning how ineffective we become if we don't have access to transparent, objective information. This costs us lives and well-being. With that in mind, we're discovering that it is really important to be transparent in our communication, to really hear the experience of others and to respond based on their experience, not our interpretation of their experience. 6. We'll learn that everybody is good at something and everybody should do their job. By trial and error, we have discovered what we are personally good at. Some of us are great at cooking dinner, and we have actually learned that our job is to cook, to make sure that our family has access to nutritious food. Others have discovered that we want to actually go and physically fight, that we're good at guns, at operating warfare machines. And then we also discovered, some of us, that we're very good at psychological counselling and helping others. Others have discovered that they're quite good at finding the right words and transmitting information transparently and honestly. So we're getting connected with that innate talent that every one of us have. And then we're also learning that, in fact, some of us are better than others at different things. So we're learning to respect everybody's excellence. We're learning that no man is an island, and similarly, no man can be amazing at everything. So we're learning to distribute responsibilities. And we actually learn to trust professionals who are doing their jobs. We put their trust into them, and we no longer pretend that we can be a person who tells the dentist which drill to choose. 7. Reconciling the absolute and the relative. In the non-dual community, it's not rare that we can hear communications like, it's all just a dream. This is all imaginary. This is consciousness playing with itself. For many people, this truth, even though it is a truth, it is the truth, dare I say this truth becomes an escaping mechanism. And many people use this Zen devilry, so to speak, to actually escape the present situation that they're in, to dismiss the physical. But one thing that they forget when they do that is that the physical is the same as the absolute. It's the manifestation of the absolute. You may disagree with the formulation that I'm suggesting as to this point, but my hope is that through this current situation, which is really tense, that is happening right now, we'll learn to integrate and be present to both of the truth of the universe, the absolute truth and the relative truth. We'll learn to hold this paradox, and we'll learn to not identify with either of those truths at the expense of the other. So we kind of learn to find a healthy balance between the two. And this is actually being quite helpful. It's like our ability to take a perspective switches based on the circumstances that we're in, and once again we can be very effective. So we're being pushed into the recognition that the balance is necessary. We are being pushed into the position of integration. 8. Selflessness, impersonality of being. No time to think the I thought. We're noticing that we want to be of service. We're actually noticing that it makes us very happy when we are of service. So we're going to great lengths to help the other. And the other includes not only human beings, also the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. We're really trying to do our best to help others, and we find great solace and peace in that. And we genuinely want that. We don't make ourselves to contribute to charity. We want to contribute to charity. We don't make ourselves to sacrifice part of our income or part of our energy to help our neighbour, but we actually want to help our neighbour. This is a real desire that we experience And I think this desire is indicative of the fact that we're connecting with our inner goodness, which is indicative of our progression and evolution as the species. 9. Gratitude. We're learning to be very grateful for simple things. Many of us used to write our gratitude journals where we would write things like, "Oh, I'm just so grateful for being alive." Right now, not only do we think, "Oh, I'm so grateful for being alive," but we actually feel that this is something to be grateful for. Gratitude used to make many of us feel uplifted in the past, but currently we are not doing the gratitude practice to help ourselves feel uplifted, but we actually feel very grateful, and then we conceptualize it and formulate it in words and articulate it, either to ourselves or to each other. We are very grateful that nobody has pressed the red button so far. We're very grateful that when we're looking outside, we can see the sunlight and we can see our trees. We're very grateful that the temperature is changing a little bit and it's becoming warmer right now. We're very grateful that we have our clothes. We're very grateful that we can stay at home and that we have electricity and gas and running water here in Kiev. Many people don't even have that in Ukraine. We're very grateful that a rocket hasn't hit our block of flats yet. We're very grateful that all of us are alive. And this is not empty rhetoric. This is fucking true. This is how we feel. We're very grateful. These truths, Ukrainians are learning the hard way. I can feel that the universe is turning up the heat for us to actually recognize the interconnectedness of being. And I also feel that if we cannot learn certain things in the times of peace, we will be pushed and pressed to learn those things at the time of war. So my deepest wish for us, wherever we are watching right now, is to become aware of how happy we are to be where we are, to have things that we have. Because things may get worse without us ever expecting that. And my great hope is that the things that people in Ukraine have been learning the hard way over these last 9 days, the rest of the world finds a way to learn, using us as an example, in a more peaceful and coherent way. Thank you for watching. God bless.